Hi there, I'm Johnny, a third generational family member of Slater Menswear, and we want to take a deep dive into a conversation about male mental health. This is because as a menswear fashion retailer, we're conscious our audience base has a growing problem in mental well-being. Just this month, the UK's monthly mental health referrals hit their highest point in 2 years, and knowing full well that our customers, staff and audience could be going through something similar, it only felt right to be proactive and open the conversation to encourage a positive change in what is currently a worrying rise. We're calling this Inside Men's Minds, where we have guests from all walks of life to gain different viewpoints and feelings on our radar. These guests include Chris Reeve, Managing Director of a social media agency and also the host of Norwich City's #1 YouTube channel. Sir Marco Robinson, Channel 4 primetime TV star, top 4 Netflix film producer of Legacy of Lies and Entrepreneur of the Year. We also have Mike Omanie, social entrepreneur, writer and public speaker. We have Colin Campbell, Business Development Director for design-led furniture business and fitness content creator, and Lex Griffin, YouTuber, entrepreneur focused on content creation to promote fitness, motivation, and a positive mindset. And to ensure we're taking the best steps in our conversation, we're also incredibly happy to have Matthew from the Samaritans joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Johnny. Thanks, everyone. Really glad to be here. So, Samaritans at the heart, we are an emotional support charity. It's important to note that we will all struggle to cope. We'll all go through difficult times at some point in our lives, whether that's issues with work, money, friends, family, relationships, health. But someone contacts Samaritans every 6 seconds because they have no one else to talk to. And it's really important that we do things like this, talk about mental health, talk about emotional well-being, so that we can support people before they actually get to crisis point. So again, thank you, Johnny. Thank you, everyone, for inviting me today.
And thank you so much for joining us, Matt. So the work Samaritans do aligns with the views we have at Slater's, and we recently learned that suicide is the single biggest killer of men under the age of 45. And after speaking with Samaritans, we learned that there are top 5 topics that live inside men's minds that often lead to mental health problems. These are work, health, relationships, money, and loneliness. So with that said, let's open it up to the group, as one of the most common subjects brought up on Samaritan phone calls is work. We spend 1/3 of our lives at work. Obviously in the past year, how we all work has shifted. And how have you guys found that shift has impacted your mental well-being and that of those around you? We'll start with Chris.
I think I've, to be honest straight away, I've struggled with the intensity of it, being chained to the desk, particularly during the global pandemic, and finding that time to actually chill out. I've found that particularly difficult, and of course that does have implications on your mental health. So that's currently where I stand with work and how that impacts my mental health.
Marco.
So I think with me, the hardest thing was the loneliness, to cope with that. And because I just had a relationship breakup in the last 6 months, that was also difficult because I had to deal with that emotional side of things while I was also in lockdown. So I think that was the hardest thing for me. And you know, I have been on the brink of suicide twice, and once I attempted it. So, you know, for me, I think it's easy for me to talk to it as a survivor of that, because I think then you can help a lot more people understand themselves. And that's what we all need to do. We need to share more, be more vulnerable and open about what we're feeling. And as guys, we're not really programmed to do that. Oh yeah, I'm a dude, I'll bring in all the money and do all the stuff. But actually inside, a lot of guys are broken.
Yeah.
For many reasons. And we don't have the chance to kind of heal those wounds because of how fast life is and how we are all geared to GDP. We're not geared to mental health. We're geared to the economy. Like, we've got to do 3% a year, or otherwise everyone's going to have a hard time. So when you realise that the society and environment is not serving your mental health, you've got to find other ways to cope with it. Like Samaritans is a beautiful organisation, but there's not enough of that going on, I feel. There's not enough of, I'm having a problem today. Who can I talk to? Because a lot of people think Samaritans, I'm just about to kill myself, now I want to talk to you. But there should be a lot more kind of prevention, I think.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would disagree either.
Yeah.
Matt, can I get your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you make some really, really good points, that this this process it's been a lot of adjusting for everyone, whatever you do. If you work in retail, if you work in an office, there's a lot of adjustment for everyone. And so even things like, I don't think a lot of people took for granted, actually, the office environment. If you went in there every day, you spent so much of your time in the office, you have that camaraderie, you have that, you speak to your colleagues, especially if you sit in the same place every day, you see the same people around you all the time, and so you're having those conversations. How are you doing? How's your evening? How was your weekend? How's your holiday? And a lot of people, if they don't, just like that, they're actually now at home. And they've got all of the equipment, your phone, your laptop, all of your equipment to do your job, but you miss out on those such important parts of actually working in an office that people they took for granted those, water cooler moments. Those times where you just sit down, you talk about the football. I'm Arsenal fan, so I don't really talk about football much.
Sorry to hear that.
Thanks. But you take those for granted, those moments, and for a lot of people, especially men, talking about that has been really challenging because there's been this element of, if you don't have it the worst, then you've got nothing to complain about. You've still got your job. Even those people, I haven't been furloughed, so I can't complain about anything. But a lot of people, as he said, broken. And it's really difficult to actually talk. And so that needs to be the first step, talking about actually how we're doing. And it's not mental health. It's just those, how are you doing? How's your weekend? How's your evening? Because we miss out on a lot of those conversations. And it's about starting those again.
So, Mike, what are your thoughts? I know you've always worked with a remote team. Was the lockdown, did it do anything different for you? Did you feel that missing that human interaction?
Yeah. Well, I think what's been said so far, I can definitely agree, with some of the things, because I felt the same way. Oddly enough, when people talk about kind of going back to normal, I don't think my normal before lockdown was actually healthy. And I say that because I'm someone who does a lot of different things, different businesses, different whatever. And so I think unwittingly, I started to kind of, put a high premium on apathy and being unaffected by things. So, my friends probably didn't help, because they always be like, Mike doesn't get affected by much. He's always kind of going on. And I think lockdown, COVID, people dying, that kind of stuff meant that I had to slow down. So my addiction to busyness was kind of crucified. But then I actually had to deal with stuff. People dying, younger brothers of mine lost their parents, and business slowed down. I just couldn't be apathetic anymore. And so it was definitely difficult at some stage. I had to seek help. I had to speak to people. I had to open up to folk. I had to really emote in a way I hadn't done before. And I think one of the amazing things that I plan to take out of lockdown is, to stop using, and I think men sometimes do this, using busyness as a crutch. And because if you're always busy, I guess you never have to deal with stuff. Because you're just like, I'm just busy, no time. And that was me. But, thanks to friends and family and stuff like that, I plan to leave that in the past and actually confront, I guess, some of the more difficult things in life and not just skip over them.
So that's actually an interesting point. And I want to open this up to everyone here, but I will start off with Colin and Lex, both two fitness, motivational guys, always promoting like a healthy lifestyle, well-being. Now, statistics suggest many men, funnily enough what Mike said, will use overworking as an escapism from many things, but especially mental health. Because if you're busy, you never have to think about it, right? Have you guys had experience with that? Do you think you've kept busy to avoid thinking about anything that's happened?
I think always chasing the next high can be a challenge, particularly if you are somebody that comes from quite a fitness-orientated background. You're always striving for the next area of improvement, and that can be healthy in many aspects of life, but equally it can be a mask for things that are going on in the background. If you've decided to, chase down the next aesthetic goal that you've got in terms of how you want to look, or chase down the next strength-based goal that you've got in the gym, that can be in almost like covering up for maybe other inadequacies that you perhaps feel, or challenges that you feel within yourself. I wouldn't say that's been a massive challenge for myself at all times, but I've definitely noticed within my fitness at times when I've needed a stimulus away from another area of my life, I've fallen back on fitness in my pursuit of looking and feeling the best that I can, which seems like a healthy outlet for certain things, but equally if it means that you're not writing things down or talking about things or thinking about what's going on in a particular area that you may be hiding or running away from, then that can be unhealthy. But equally, I'm a massive advocate of using exercise for things like the endorphins that you spoke about, Marco, and things like the escapism as well, because equally, we're all talking about how busy you are, Mike. Sometimes that hour a day in the gym or that 30-minute run that you're doing is your time away from your phone and your screen and your emails or whatever else is going on to escape and use that to better yourself physically, but also mentally.
Yeah, solid points. That's the big one for me, being away from your phone in that hour in the gym. When you see people on the phone in the gym, it always gets me a little bit, not angry, but I feel like they're not utilising that time, like they're not appreciating that moment they've got for escapism in the gym. I think we lost a lot of that during lockdown, because even though a lot of us bought equipment in and got to train, it's not the same. It's not the same as going away from the house to a different environment, to be surrounded by other people, whether you're talking to them or not. You've just got the energy of the other people around you that helps them motivate you through. You let yourself reset and then you go back into your working environment, which is, like many of us at home because we're remote workers, or back into the workplace. I think one thing you touched on before about being busy and keeping yourself busy to ignore the fact that I think so many people use that. And I think even procrastination is something that we use to cover up facing something. We'll sit, you're supposed to be, right, I've got to face this project that I've got to get done. And an hour later, you're searching 1950s trousers on a vintage website. And you're like, how am I here? Where did we go? And I think one big thing that we all do that's wrong is label mental health as something, as being an occasion that happens when we get to a certain point. Mental health is continuous. It's every day, all day. That conversation you have around the water cooler, you don't think that's to do with your mental health, but it's part and parcel of your day that keeps you elevated. And taking away those little slithers of elevation through the day, you take away enough of those. And we end up in this situation where all of a sudden why have I got no energy? Why do I feel this way? You're not even aware of why it's happened. So how are you meant to be aware of how to deal with it? And I think then talking to other people and even hearing that somebody else feels the same way will elevate you. It's as simple as just hearing somebody else say, no, dude, I feel the same. You're like, okay, it's not just me. And that alone is huge. And that's normal. I think so many people watch highlight reels on social media and think that you just wake up, spring out of bed in the morning and like, let's get to the day. It's just not what happens. Everybody has to wake up and prep themselves into that mood, set a routine, set mechanisms, and put those little slithers that we got taken away back into our days. That's what I've taken away from a lot of it.
You said routine there, Lex, and I think that's something that a lot of us missed because there was the commute to the office or the leaving the house, or say you're a remote worker and you never worked in the office, leaving the house at the end of the day to go to the gym, leaving the house to go to the cinema, the theatre, Marco. There was an end point and there was clear boundaries. And Chris, you've just spoken there about work blurring into one. That was probably the biggest challenge when it came to the pandemic for a lot of people who previously maybe hadn't experienced mental health, that started to find that. And I found that there was no bookmark because I had my dumbbells sitting in my living room floor that I was going to work out with after training for the start of the lockdown anyway. And having no clear shift in environment and change away from your desk and your house made it very, very difficult for you to differentiate between the two. And that's when busyness is the next theme and your routine just becomes
a blur.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the big things, right? The boundary between work and personal life is completely shattered. I don't know about you guys now, but still following that. I mean, even before the pandemic, people were checking their emails on their work phone and stuff. But that working at home, sure, you might finish at 5:30, but if there's stuff to do and you're sitting at your desk, you might as well do it, even if you're at your house. And it's probably why people have forgotten that the gym is somewhere to escape to. I'm sure that there's some on social media taking pictures for the gram and that, but there's probably some who are like checking in with work and stuff.
You see, they're just swiping through a feed and you're looking at it. And they're missing the fact is that they're in there to better themselves. I'm assuming that's why most people go and train or do something either to elevate their mood or try and feel better overall and get healthier. I guarantee that they're probably looking at stuff that's nothing to do with that mental state they should be in that time. Like there should be a focus on your health and your goal set when you're in that gym and constantly. Imagine if you were at work and every so often someone just went off to go and bid on stuff on eBay during a meeting. You're not going to be concentrating on that meeting. You got eBay. Yeah, that's exactly what it's like. It's taking away the focal point of where you're at. And I think a lot of people have merged that line, especially with COVID, because everyone's just been glued to their phones. And look, walk down this high street. I walk down the high street looking at the city, looking at the buildings, looking at the skyline. Everybody else has got their face looking at the pavement on the floor. The phone, sorry.
It's habituated now, isn't it?
It's got worse.
We're drawn to it. And again, Marco spoke about dopamine, didn't he? We're all seeking dopamine from the from the phones and the screens, and it's very good at giving it to us up to a point, but we're so saturated by it, there's no change in elevation of dopamine, like you say, maybe taking in the beauty of the surroundings. Instead, you'd much rather swipe up to see if you've got another like on Instagram or another retweet.
And then they start valuing themselves by that as well, but also they're highlight reeling. So again, imagine if you're in a bad mood and then you go onto your phone and you're looking at everyone's highlights of the day. But you're not remembering that it's a highlight. You just look at everyone else and think, well, my life's crap compared to this.
Being in the world of social media, what I've certainly noticed is not just from a personal point of view, obviously people are more addicted to social media than ever before. Because of COVID, everyone is now, there's an element of us of being this data scientist, and we're waiting for the next piece of news to come through about what we need to do and when, and that's a massive challenge. But also, in terms of the actual social platforms as well, the usage is through the roof everywhere, on every platform, and they are keeping people hooked in. So you speak about the blur in work and play, we'll call it, but also the line between being in the real world and being in the digital world is now kind of all just up in the air.
Gone.
We need to get, and that's a massive thing. I don't know if it's just a bloke thing, or perhaps I think it's for everyone, truth be told. But I think we all need to make the effort to decide when we're going to be on and when we're going to be off, so to speak. And I think as blokes, we can probably definitely do a better job of actually pulling people up. We had the pleasure of going for dinner last night, and Cole said, "No, I'm phone at the dinner table, not for me." I think that's really, really refreshing, and I think that I think we should take more accountability.
Did he get it stolen? Something
for that.
Wasn't there?
I think it's being present though. It's a real challenge, and because we are drawn to our phone, we miss out on the benefits of perhaps having a real conversation. And I joked with Chris, no phones at the dinner table, but it was more like, I can appreciate if you want to take like a photo of your meal, and lots of us do that, and post it, but don't post it at that point. Just put your phone away and get back to the real conversation, because the phone, Instagram and stuff like that will be there long after the people around you have moved on.
Yeah.
So Matt, I assume a lot of the calls in the last year, even before, was it the effects people felt social media was having on them, or did you guys conclude that was impacting a lot of people?
Yeah, definitely. But actually, I do want to touch on something that you mentioned earlier about busy, and that's really fascinating. If we could do a quick poll, how many of you have been on a Zoom call and said to the person, "How are you doing?" and they've replied, "Good, thanks, really busy"? Hands up. Yeah. And I think that word, I think everyone here has used that, busy. And it's kind of evolved over the past year. Before, it was, busy, but everyone's really busy. And I think now, that especially with a lot of people being working from home, there's this element of, I need to justify that I'm still doing a good job. Especially if line manager, boss, you're on a call with them, how are you doing? Oh yeah, I'm good. Oh, I'm really busy. So there is this element of, I need to justify that I'm still working. Like, don't worry, I'm still working because I'm saying I'm really busy. And so there's this element of using that as just it's the default. Before it was, how you doing? Oh yeah, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Now it's yeah, I'm fine, but really busy. How are you? Oh, because you said I'm busy. I'm really busy. And so that, that's a bigger workaround, but there's that element of, we need to kind of move past that. Yeah. And whatever work you do, we understand, I know you're busy. You don't need to tell me that you're busy. We're all really busy. And so, I think that's really important. It's just fascinating that we're all using busy.
More like
really,
asking,
really busy.
how are you doing outside of the busy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, what's going on with you at the moment? Yeah.
So you think people should probe on that more? If someone's like busy, but how else are you?
Yeah,
how are you doing?
Yeah, because we always ask, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm fine. How are you?
It doesn't actually take much to pull something from somebody either.
No.
You only have to ask them twice, and they'll crack and tell you if they've got something to tell you.
Can I throw something in that might be a span in the works? Just in the spirit of honesty, I think when folks ask me how I'm doing, and I, especially on, say, Zoom, I know Zoom probably isn't the best example, but when folks say, how are you doing? If I say busy, it's typically code for, let's stop there and kind of move on, to the next thing, rather than, what did you do yesterday? I'm like, listen to me, let's just move on, type of situation. Now, with someone like me then, who doesn't perhaps, when people ask, how are you doing? I would rather just, good, let's keep on going. Is that wrong? Is that something that has to be, because I'll tell you what I even dread more, is the idea that kind of every interaction has to be deep and,
Yeah.
and powerful and cathartic. I'm like, listen, mate, I want to just kind of have
but
a
are you
good
judging
moment
this
and
in a
move
business
on.
conversation, or are you judging it with a friend? Because you wouldn't, in a business conversation, expect it to be deep. But if you're speaking to your mum or somebody on the other end of it, and they say, "How you doing?" you're going to respond differently to the Zoom call business chat. You know?
I think my thing is more, should every interaction I have, you know,
No,
have the
you'd be
potential
drained.
for the depth? Or
No,
can
you
I?
No, that would be draining.
You'd be
That would
drained as hell,
mentally
buddy.
draining. No,
It'd
and
be like
it's not-
meditating all day. That'd be work.
And that's, you know, that's not the idea. You know, when we talk about, you know, we need to be more open, we need to talk about emotional well-being and how we're doing. It's not the idea. It's like, you know, everyone, you walk past people on the street, how you doing? You okay? How you doing? You okay? That's not the idea, but it's just about almost kind of changing our mindset around, especially if it's people that we know, that we care about. And if you think something isn't quite right, ask them, how you doing? You okay? You sure? You don't seem yourself. And ask again, but not. It's not every interaction, because that, as I said, it would be very, very emotionally draining if every conversation was, I'm going to try to probe and get, you know, because not everyone wants to talk. And, you know, if someone says, oh yeah, I'm fine, that's okay too. But if, you know, and if you ask again and they say, oh yeah, I'm fine, again, that's okay. But what you've done is just given them permission to talk to you. So if you do want to talk to them and they want to talk to you, it might be an hour from then, 6 weeks later, that they go, actually, remember we had that
You
chat.
know when you
and
get
we will
those
talk.
moments when people feel like they're going to say something and they don't, and they pull back, and they'll ask you again, well, no, tell me. And then goes, no, it doesn't matter. When someone says, I think it's a big thing, is this, when someone does say, no, tell me, they're opening to you saying, I'm here, speak. And a lot of people don't take that time. So it's both ways. Like, it can be either coming at you or you can be putting it out there. But it's definitely taking those opportunities rather than brushing them off and moving on, you know, with the whole, you know, busy thing. But only in the moments when you can.
I've actually changed the language around when someone says to me, I'm busy, I say, good busy or bad busy?
Oh, yeah, I get that.
Which is quite cool, because then you hit the mental health impact if they want to take that up, which is good. I think blokes need to potentially try and change their attitude around thinking being busy is cool as well. Like, what's really cool to me is when I'm on a Zoom call and someone says, yeah, so good, I've just got off the golf course. I'm like, yes, that's what I want to hear. And that I think blokes in general need to, you know, try to give trophies more around that well-being side of life rather than the work side of life, because we think it's cool, but is it cool?
Well, it's because that hustle mentality has been
Hustle,
so promoted, like
100%.
hustle, hustle, hustle.
Yeah. I think hustle porn is a massive thing. You know, I think blokes
Hang on,
think
rewind,
that
what?
Hustle porn.
I've not
hustle
heard
porn.
this.
You said hustle quietly and then.
Yeah, you did. You emphasised the porn bit, and we all immediately got distracted.
But people will know that are watching, right? I think, you know, there's loads of people that are online like saying, I've had such a busy day, I'm smashing life, I'm absolutely killing it. But really behind that, you know, they're probably struggling. So,
Well, people are struggling for validation.
for sure. It's
So
something
they
that I struggle
post,
with. Yeah.
Yeah.
looking for that validation because they're not getting it in a social community in themselves, because society has, but it's changed.
Yeah.
It's also why our dopamine receptors are completely fried, and we're so insensitive to spikes and kind of stimulation of it. And that's why when I was joking with Chris about phones off at dinner, it's because it's demanding our attention, even though we're actually going to get a lot more longer term positive feelings of actual serotonin from discussions and face-to-face conversations rather than short-term boosts from the mobile phone.
I don't want us to demonise social media though either, because it is such a massively positive place if you let it be. But it's important that you make it a positive place. So if you're on social media following people to hate them, stop following them. Like, just stop. If every time you look at something it makes you go, ugh, unfollow that person.
I saw a great thing on Twitter the other day where Chris runs the Norwich City football YouTube channel,
Supporters.
and in football, and we know what trolls on Twitter can be like, especially when it comes to like football and rivalries and stuff. And Chris honestly handles this stuff better than most I've seen. Someone shared a clip from the show and being like, you couldn't pay me enough to watch this. Firstly, this guy's just advertised it to his entire audience, basically bringing new people to Chris. And Chris is like, sorry to hear you feel that way. Send me your address. I'd love to send you a crate of beer. And if you ever decide to watch the show, please let me know.
Kill them with love.
Nice, beautiful way to do it.
Yeah, I think it's important to be the change you want to see. I think maybe I'm not sure if it's just a bloke thing to say that phrase again, but I think we all need to stop blaming external forces and what can you do to make it a better place. And I think showing that kindness and empathy is just essential. It's so essential, and not enough blokes are doing it. And I actually think that we all need to take more responsibility and we need to step up.
So Lex, being a fitness influencer, how do you find the correlation between mental and physical health? Because there was a Mind study in 2019 and they found good evidence to suggest that at most ages, being more active is linked to a trend for lower rates of depression. One study even showing that by increasing your activity levels from nothing to exercising at least 3 times a week, you can reduce your risk of depression by up to 30%. Do you think that's accurate?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a huge kickstart to kind of your own serotonin release within the body, which is what makes us feel good, and endorphin, you know, that's what elevates us. And again, when we're sat doing nothing and not putting any energy out, not making the body move, we do begin to shut down. The body's an efficient machine. You're not moving, it's not going to start doing too much. You start getting up and being active, getting the blood flowing, getting fresh oxygen into you, you're starting to breathe a little deeper, you're starting to get outside and breathe fresh air, see different views. A lot of the big problem is, and we discussed it a little earlier on, was the same 4 walls, looking at the same 4 walls of your home or your office. Getting to that gym's a different environment. Getting to the boxing club, the dance studio, whatever it is that you choose to do that's active, it's just a different environment with a different sensation that gives you a different feeling from your day-to-day run-of-the-mill. And I think that's hugely important. But in terms of people looking at fitness as a whole, it doesn't mean, I mean, they can look at me, I'm the extreme end of the scale. You know, it's a heavy part of my lifestyle. And people think that, oh, well, to be that way, it has to be a heavy part of my lifestyle. And it's just not the case. I found during lockdown, going for a walk, did anybody else do this? Out into nature where there were trees and stuff. Dude, I never appreciated that more in my life. Never more. I literally hugged a tree. I literally sat. Yeah, I became. I learned.
You are a tree hugger.
I learned I learned the meaning of that phrase. I was like, I get this now. Like when you couldn't go out, and then all of a sudden you'd be out in nature. And that, it can be something as simple as that, getting out and going on a light run, going on a fast walk, something that just gets your heart rate moving, gets you breathing a little heavier. It doesn't have to be trying to lift 200 kilograms on a deadlift in the gym. It's any kind of activity is going to help elevate your mood because it's pulling you out of that norm and putting you in a different kind of stress environment, but a fun stress, a goal set stress, like, oh, I want to get a little bit better at that, or I start to feel a bit better at that, I wonder how much further we can go. It's little steps at a time that make this huge difference. And through COVID, I mean, personal experience-wise, the first one, like you said, the whole stay busy, apathy thing, I'm good, I'm great, you know, I was okay. Second lockdown hit, I took a hit on that one. That one, because it was, we got let out for, was it 3 weeks in between them? Yeah. So you kind of get that elevation up, right, getting back to this, and then boom, everything you had lined up, everything you had done, all that activity you started to get back into, boom, cut on the head again. And it was just like, that was the second hit that spiraled me a little bit into beginning to even think, how are we going to get out of this when they're taking away everything that we're so used to that's elevated. And for me, it was the fitness side of things, not being able to get into those environments that I was used to push the body, and I couldn't do it from home. So it was finding out from other people that same thing, and to, again, not demonize the social media. Colin was saying messages through social media and DMs of people reaching out, trying to find, how do I replace what I had through COVID to try and stay elevated, because it was such a huge part of people's lives. So we noticed other people that are involved in fitness were starting to feel the same way on that second lockdown. That crunch really hit.
Massively.
Yeah, you found that?
Yeah, the number of people that felt they lost a little bit of purpose, particularly in that second lockdown when we didn't have the good weather. The first lockdown where there was good weather and we were outside, people were training in their gardens with their dumbbells. It was a run 5k, nominate 5k, donate £5, and that was a great movement, and there was a lot of people exercising. But when it was January, February, it was cold, it was dark, it was wet, you were scared of.
Yeah, you're right. That was why it crushed.
You were scared, yeah. So there was real understanding of why you would feel more down at that point. And Lex and I were talking before we hit record about the DMs that we're getting back and forth with people like looking for assistance and help, particularly from people that still held themselves up as feeling quite motivated and working towards it, even though we perhaps weren't at our peak. Yeah. We were probably still ticking some boxes for our well-being.
We're still saying we were overly active for a normal human being, but underactive for ourselves. But that made no difference. It was still the same drop in level, wasn't it? So we got hit the same. And I think one of the big things I did just want to say was the kill them kindness. When everyone messaged you with like something hateful, what I always send back is, and I challenge you all to try this. It's just something like we're going, sounds like you've had a bad day, dude. Hope it gets better. And I guarantee you, 9 out of 10 times, the next message you get from that person that could have been the most hateful thing you've ever read will be just,
Sorry.
yeah, sorry about that. And then they'll tell you why they were. And I end up sometimes really helping people through that avenue as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to, I just wanted to mention that before I forgot it because my brain would have sieved that out and got rid of it by the time we left. I think everybody here, I mean, does anybody, who doesn't train regularly? Is everybody a regular trainer?
Very much.
Everybody's doing something activity, whether it's golf or whatever. Everyone's doing that. And did you all feel it in that second lockdown?
Yeah, I think the kindness thing is brilliant. By the way, I think I can't afford to send everyone a crate of drinks, especially as the volume of hate grows. The budget doesn't stretch that far. But I can definitely come again.
How much hate are you getting?
I don't know.
He's on the news a lot recently, so he's a commentator
I don't get that much
on
hate,
certain
but
topics.
I do get some. But I think the killing with kindness, the point is really strong. What I want to speak about as well, or just to highlight in terms of this fitness point is, yeah, I train, I run. I need it personally because grew up playing sport, and so for me, it just how my brain's wired, right? However, I do think one of the major reasons, because I'm the guy who tried to drag everyone to run with me, mainly because, as you said, it was dark. So I was like, guys, let's run. And what friends would always say is like, I'm not a runner. But they would say stuff like, I'm not a runner. And I think that is something that's problematic about, again, the digital age we live in now, where it's like the only thing worth doing is things I can monetize, things I can start an Instagram page for, things. And it's like, hold on. Why don't you just do it for fun or because it's good for you, and you don't have to kind of. And people, some guy would be like, I don't want to run because because we're doing a 5K. He said that I don't want to have to post my time. I was like, you don't have to post your time. Like that's not a thing. You can literally just run, and go home. And I think just realizing that as guys, I think there is a inbuilt kind of competitive streak in us that sometimes is unhealthy because it just ruins what are meant to be just like lovely things to do.
Stifles the enjoyment.
Yeah, by kind of it suffocates it. Yeah, by making it all about competition. And I just find that the people realize that one, you can go for that fast-paced walk or slow-paced walk, whatever it is, for yourself, just for your own mental health, just so you're not in the same four walls. Then more people may do it. And you don't, and the only thing worth, there is still a part of your life, I think, that needs to be dedicated to things that you enjoy, that are good for you, and it just ends there. It doesn't have to become monetizable, it doesn't have to become a business, it doesn't have to become something you're known for, it doesn't have to become a line on your bio. Like, it literally can just be something you enjoy. And I think if we do that, maybe more people will get active.
It's funny you also said that, Mike, about guys being competitive, because my iWatch spoiled like fitness for me. It used to be something I enjoyed doing, but then you can get in competitions with people you're connected with. So during lockdown, I was doing that with people, and it would be like 9 o'clock at night, and I'd be like, oh God, I have to get my points in. And it became this thing I had to do, not I wanted to do, and I really did start to resent it for a while. So that's I'd never thought about it, but that's a very good point. So Colin, obviously, I've got you on Instagram. I know your fitness stuff. I know you've always got your muscle food. I hope they're going to pay us for that. So basically, mentalhealth.org has said there's a growing body of evidence indicating that nutrition may play an important role in the prevention, development, and management of diagnosed mental health problems, including depression, anxiety, schizophrenia, ADHD, and dementia. Do you think this is far-fetched, or can a healthy diet impact your mental well-being?
I think it can massively impact things because your gut is a massive driver of what's going on in your brain. And if your gut is well looked after, that's primarily from what you put in your mouth, because that's what ends up in your gut, then it looks after your mind and your body as well. In terms of, you've mentioned like MyFitnessPal and like healthy food sources that I choose, yes, a lot of that's for how I look and how I train and how I perform, and ultimately the amount of calories you put in your body will be reflected in how you look. That's physics, that's energy balance, that's how it works. However, I know that if I don't eat correctly, I'm not at peak performance within my working environment, I'm not at peak performance within my training environment, I'm not at peak performance in terms of my ability to support and help others around me as well. Because ultimately, when I eat well, I train well, I'm hydrated, I've slept well, all these different things come together to make me the best version of me. Lex mentioned about extremes. I appreciate that I'm probably at the extreme end of certain things when it comes to that, but there's, in my opinion, there's like dials that you can turn up and down. But too many people, unfortunately, during the pandemic in particular, had some of their dials turned right down because of the other stresses that were around them. They maybe switched off some of these other well-being dials that made them more vulnerable to other areas as well. And food was a massive one of those. Like, we kept fast food restaurants open, but we closed lots of local farm shops with healthy, nutritious sources. And that's not we're not going to make political points about how we managed the pandemic. But ultimately, when we think about how we fed ourselves and nourished ourselves during that period, there's a lot of lessons to be learned in terms of what goes in our mouth, into our gut, how it affects our brain and how it makes us feel. So I don't think that's far-fetched in the slightest, Johnny.
No, even just thinking about sugar levels within the body. I mean, if you consume a large amount of simple carbohydrates, then expect to stay awake 3 hours later. Like, especially if you're sat down working at a computer, you're dreaming. You're going to start yawning and you're going to feel really sleepy within about 2 hours of eating that high-carb meal. So it's all about, it's not even so much, it's about learning to balance your food. And it's about learning about nutrition in general. I don't think enough people are taught about nutrition at all. Like, people talk about calories, and calories are the bare basics. I mean, they break down into macros, which are far more important overall, but so many people don't even know about calories, how to create their own calorie requirement. And there's so many online calculators, you can do it in literally 10 minutes, but people aren't made aware of this enough. And it's huge in, again, energy levels. Energy levels lead to productivity, lead to good or bad sleep. And energy levels overall through the day are huge with dehydration. If you're dehydrated, you're going to feel terrible. You're not going to be able to think as productively. So these are all massive, and it's all consistency day to day. And we're not teaching anybody about this enough, I don't think. People are having to reach out too much. And I think that's a huge factor. Like, are people binge eating as well? Because that's another mental state altogether. That's something that can lead to deeper mental states.
Emotional eating,
Emotional eating. That gives you that serotonin, that endorphin release they're looking for, but it's short-lived. And then again, they get back to reality, and then it's a bad cycle. It's definitely one that needs breaking.
Matt, is there anything you guys discuss at Samaritans when people come to you, or tips given around nutrition, about physical health, that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's really interesting actually, because what we find is that obviously people at different stages, knowledge base, obviously talk about calories, nutrition, a lot of it goes over the head of a lot of people because they've changed their lifestyle in the last 12, 18 months from, going into work and then they would go to a coffee shop to buy a particular food and a drink, and they would have it every day. Yeah. And then they're having to actually think about, actually, I can't do that now, so I need to start buying my own food. What do I do? Do I get freezer stuff that's easier to do, easier to store? Do I buy fresh stuff? And so people are having to kind of retrain their minds as to almost start again. And it's all the same with fitness as well. You've got those people that would go to the gym 3 days a week, and that's it, right? Great, 3 days a week, great. And then they're now, I can't do that anymore. Yeah. So then what do they do? And again, they're having to kind of retrain. Are they buying equipment and doing it at home? And a lot of the time, people don't really know. They don't really know. And so then what people will do is they might go on social media and go, okay, to get an idea, but then think, I'm seeing the people that are at the peak of physical perfection. Yeah. And they go, I don't look like that. So therefore, I can't run. Yeah. And then kind of going back, Mike, what you're saying about, should we just go for a run? Someone will say, I run funny, so then I'm not going to go for a run. And you're like, it's okay. Yeah. You can just go for a run. But people have kind of trained themselves to think, I'm not the best because, I've been seeing the people that are the best. I'm not that, so therefore, I can't do it. Yeah. And so it's kind of getting over that hurdle of, it's okay. It doesn't matter where you start, what level you are. It's okay. Just start by doing something, even if it's just walking around the block.
I think we've already had an issue of self-worth, haven't we, as a human being, and that's just been multiplied or emphasised with socials. Like socials are now everyday part of our lives. They're going to be here forever, and I think that's a big thing. Is the self-worth? Is people now look at themselves hypercritically about every little aspect.
Just on that, when it comes to how we view ourselves and like self-image, there was a massive spike when it came to applications and requests for cosmetic surgery after the first few weeks on Zoom, because people were like, do I look like that? Is that how my nose is? Is that my huge increases, like genuinely like 100 percentiles
Did you have any
increases.
plastic surgery?
No, I didn't, Marco. I was quite happy with how I looked. But even if you aren't particularly happy with how you look, like you're the best version of, or you can try and be the best version of you through your health and your fitness or whatever, and making such drastic changes off the back of a few still videos that you watch of yourself each day is quite a drastic change in your approach to how you feel about yourself, just based on the fact that you're looking at yourself in a front on camera. Everyone's had that moment when they open their phone and it's on selfie camera and you look like a thumb. Yeah. That was just accentuated by being on a camera for several hours a day during your working day, which you weren't used to, and you had massive considerations of how you look. So it's very similar to, like, this is my best angle to get photos at, and we see people do ridiculous things to achieve that. But it's the exact same when it comes to your ability to be comfortable on screen.
Right, guys, so I'd like us to move on to the next topic, which would be money. So Mind, the mental health charity, recently surveyed people with mental health problems to see how the pandemic had affected their mental health. The resulting data from more than 14,000 people aged 25 and over found that concerns about employment and finances were some of several worries that had a negative impact on people's mental health, with 45% of men saying that employment worries had negatively affected their mental health and 41% claiming their mental health was made worse by concerns about finances. Do you think this is accurate, and did the pandemic make you more financially concerned personally, especially with so many of you being business owners? Starting with you, Chris.
If I'm really honest, I think money has always impacted my mental health. I really struggle with talking about it, actually, because when my mum passed away of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2007, the will was written up last minute when she was unfortunately on lots of drugs at the time, and my stepdad then ended up with what I perceive as a lot more than he should have had. Anyway, I think that as blokes, it's maybe that hunter-gatherer instinct within us. We all vibe with money, yeah, horse racing, gambling, betting, spending the big bucks, wanting to spend big all the time, and it's kind of cool to talk about money. Personally, I feel really uncomfortable to talk about money, but even regardless of that situation, where of course it stemmed from, personally for me, I think money does intimidate some blokes that I've met, and we're probably not honest enough to admit that. Again, to reference my point of hustle porn, hustle culture, making loads of money all the time, and it's this mega great big thing. But of course, you know, I think it's fair to say that sometimes the more money you make, the more stress and, you know, mental health implications it can have, and we should be honest about that. You don't have to be the bloke bringing in the big bucks all the time, and again, social impacts that, right? But I think in general, that's the reason why money has massively affected my mental health.
But as well, wouldn't you be better being the guy that enjoys what he's doing and bringing a little bit less, but bringing
Correct.
more of yourself to that family environment anyway?
Totally agree.
So I think that's an important thing people need to be reiterated, and that bottom line doesn't always need to be the biggest. If what gives you a little less provides everybody else with more of you.
And Marco, how about you? Because I know you were trying to get your movie off the ground, and getting funding and pulling in money over the last year was a bit difficult.
Now, the problem with money is not the pandemic, it's not mental health, it's the education system. Because none of us have been educated to be wealthy. We go to school, we learn how to do ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, we learn Pythagoras, the medieval history of 1066 and the Magna Carta, which is completely useless in real life. So in school, we're not taught real life skills. Like, your headmaster didn't turn up in his Ferrari at your school and say, today's first class is how to buy property with no money down, guys, or how to start a social media agency. So no one is equipped to build wealth. So everyone is in the hustle porn culture because they're afraid they're not going to have enough to retire on. They're afraid there's never going to, and the fact is there isn't enough. Because if you look at society, there is not enough for people to be abundant in money. And that's why a lot of people have a problem talking about it. Because, oh God, we have to talk about money. But it's a necessary evil of society that's got this stigma of not making enough money, so don't like talking about it. So, you know, for me, yeah, I had to pivot. When I released my film, I had 10,000 cinemas signed up. January 2020 came, and the virus came, so we couldn't release it in the cinema, which meant I lost £5 million overnight. So I had to pivot big time. So I went to Amazon Prime, and eventually, you know, I sold the regions around the world. But the positive side of that is I learned new skills because I had to. I had no choice.
And that's exactly my point, Marco. I think we all strive to earn as much money as possible, but actually, and I'm not, I still perceive myself as being motivated, aspiring to achieve great things in my life. But I think sometimes we need to actually, when we look at a deal on the table, you go, cool, how much of my mental health space is that going to take?
Yeah.
And we don't do that enough, in my opinion.
Matt, I'd like to take this over to you because the stat I've got here is over the past year, male callers were slightly more likely than female callers to raise concerns about finances or unemployment, an increase of 7%. So with what we just heard, why do you think men are more stressed about finances and unemployment than women?
I think it goes back to kind of what we spoke about at the very start, that men aren't talking about this. It's kind of simple, but we are not used to talking about how we're feeling, and that is part of money as well. And so, whereas, this is a mass generalisation, but a lot more women have that inbuilt support network where they can speak to their friends. A lot of men don't have that, and we don't talk as much as we should do. And so, what we find is that men will end up at that crisis point. They're actually in serious debt when they've got debt collectors knocking on the door before there is actually that. Actually, I need some help. I need some support. Gambling addiction is one of the big reasons why people contact Samaritans, and it's just that. It's that people want that high, that adrenaline buzz, but people don't know when to stop.
And
it's that.
In terms of gambling, look at the media. What's on what TV adverts? Gambling. Sponsorship and football shirts. Gambling as a feel-good thing. So the media and the government's responsible for that, a lot of that.
But there's also this element of people not being content with what they have. I mean, you take person X who is, working a 9-to-5 job in an office. 2 years ago, 10 years ago, they'd be happy. Oh, this is that job, I can get promoted, brilliant. Yeah. But now there's this element of, oh no, I need to be making more, hustling. I need to be doing more. So as much as that full-time job that I've got, I also need to be looking at what the other avenues of making money, because that's the only way I can be happy. It's not that full-time job anymore. Or I need to have 3 more strands of way to make money. And so when those things don't work out, then we get into this area of, oh, now I'm really, really struggling, because a year ago I was just happy with my job, but now, because these other avenues aren't working out, I'm in a bad place.
What's the statistics for actual suicide in terms of money? Is money a very high thing?
It's difficult to it's difficult to know. Obviously, suicide is a really, really complex issue, and it's not so much, oh, this is the reason why this person took their life. This is the reason why this person took their life. It's a lot more complicated than that. But we do have, it's about 20% of calls that we get at Samaritans are about debt and gambling issues.
How many calls are about relationships?
It's about 20% of calls to Samaritans are about relationships, and it's taken a big hit since the pandemic because people's lifestyles have changed, their relationships have changed. Even if you are, before you were in a completely happy relationship where 2 people, lived in the same place, went to work, and they come back, they're having to adjust to living in the same place. I mean, my wife and I, we live in a studio flat, and that's not conducive for working at home. And so, see, I love my wife; she's amazing,
but not that much.
But going from, we both go to work to actually now we're both at work at home, and then having to deal with Zoom calls. And one of us is like, oh, I've got a Zoom call now. Oh no, you've got a Zoom call, and then coordinating diaries, even things like that. So there's been a massive, massive strain on relationships because of what's happened over the past sort of 12, 15, 18 months.
So it doesn't really just extend to those one-on-one, like romantic relationships, because what I understand is calls over the past year have expressed concerns from people that their social circles got smaller as a result, and they're worried those relationships might not return.
Completely.
So
I mean, you've got things like a lot of men will have their kind of social circle will be work, it will be the pub, it will be football, and then you take all of those away, they're not replaced by anything. I mean, you've got people like my uncle who massive football fan, and that's his social life. It's going to a game every week. That's what he does. And then that's taken away from him. And he has really struggled this past year. He's really struggled because he doesn't have that anymore. And even though there are people that are there for him, he's got a support network. He's got family, he's got friends, but they aren't used to talking without the football because they had that joint collective where you could just talk about the football, you could talk about the result, you could talk about getting there. But they don't have that anymore. So going from not having that to talking about, what can you talk about now? Talk about the weather, talk about something else. It's really difficult. And so people struggle.
It's taught us to not be too one-dimensional in our lifestyle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've seen what could be pulled away at the drop of a hat. So I think it's a moment to take to just try more things, get out there, see what else you enjoy. You never know. Maybe you were too focused on that one thing, and like I said, blessing in disguise. I do think there's been a lot of positives to come out of the COVID thing. I know everyone we talk about negatives, but there are a huge amount of positives. That people have learned, like you said, living together. That relationship, it could be your best friend. If you're trapped in a house together and can't leave for a week, you're going to start getting on each other's nerves. So no matter what that relationship level is, family member, loved one, or whatever, that's going to be tough. I think it's taught us to appreciate people in different ways, to understand that somebody needs space, and that's a huge one. Especially, I think, as men, we do like those quiet times every so often. So maybe we've had a busy day and we come back and you just want to sit and just have like an hour where just nothing is...
A lot more than an hour.
Yeah, but, assuming you've got other people who want to
I think
draw
we should
some
take
time
relationship
from you.
advice off Matt, because they're still together after that.
Yeah, very true.
In a
Did you
studio
find that was the
Sit
thing?
now.
Was taking time
If
for
I go home and I'm getting divorced, I'm blaming you.
well, hey, listen, mate, phone lines are open.
Yeah. Was that the thing you did though? Was it that you were able to decipher when the other one needed just a bit of space?
Yeah, it's just there are little things you can do that just coordinating each other's calendars.
Yeah.
So we're connecting on our calendars, so we know. I've got a call in then, so I don't put anything else in. And but there.
Did you end up ever zooming each other by mistake?
Oh gosh! Could you imagine?
What are you doing here?
My mind would melt.
Yeah.
Can I just, one thing that I was going to say before that I think is clearly a trend in kind of the whole conversation we're having. I don't know, I think someone said it before, if our brain is advanced enough for the digital world we currently live in.
No.
And it strikes me as one thing that COVID did or lockdown rather, was exacerbate the kind of digital angle or arc the world was going in already. And clearly we need some sort of training, or we need funding, or we need, whether it's government or it's new businesses, whatever it is, or charities, we need people to focus on just equipping, especially younger people, I would say, to deal with the new digital world we live in. Because every topic you mentioned, Johnny, it seems as though at some stage we get to how social media has affected it, or how being online has affected it. Because take relationships, obsessing over other prominent people's relationship as a goal is obviously one of the biggest issues that that ruins people's relationship. That the idea that you go, we're arguing, but the people I see online, they're not arguing. It's no, they're showing you them at dinner. That's not their relationship, right? And that expectation, what relationships should look like, the fact that we even have, say, couples that we kind of go, oh, that's a good example. No, it's not. You'd have to follow them around forever to really get what their relationship's like. So just really learning how to detach and to just go, and whether it's friends or it's or it's romantic, just learning how to do life without the pressure of how everyone else is doing life. I think that's one of the major issues we need to kind of overcome.
So do you think people need to change, or social media needs to change?
I'll be honest, I think both, but I don't think social media, because there's a profit motive there. There's a capitalist engine driving all of that. So I think it's wishful thinking to think, out of just a whim or benevolent streak, they're just going to change. I think what we can do as individuals is make better choices as we consume, but also be more intelligent and be more kind of just be more intentional about how we use some of these platforms. And I think a massive thing, which again, it's been a thread, is just context. Most of us go online without much context. And so what we see, we just kind of take it as what it is. And it's not always that. So that picture of people smiling does not mean a happy, fruitful relationship.
Highlight reels.
It's a highlight reel.
It's a highlight reel.
Just doing that was helpful. One good thing though, that I think did happen, and I think more guys should open themselves up to this. I don't know if this is a guy thing, but I used to be like, oh, my friends from primary school, you know, I've had them for years. And I used to kind of pride myself in having friends for a long time. And so when Clubhouse, this new platform, started, people were like, oh, I'm going there and meet new people. And I was thinking, why do I want to meet new people? Well, I mean, I've got all the friends I ever need, kind of thing. And thank God I actually went on it. Because you never guess what happened, Johnny. I met some new people. Like I met people who I thought, yo, I actually like you. You're kind of funny. Like, you're kind of cool. And I've now stopped the whole, oh, but they've known me since I was young and they've been through all this stuff with me, to open up myself to the possibility of meeting new people and actually liking new people. And there's folks in America, there's folks in different parts of the world that I've met online that now we're having this thing of when you meet them in real life, you're like, oh my God.
You're kind of disappointed.
Yeah, I mean, some of these, the contrary, because some of these lads, like today, for instance, like we've had a virtual relationship and now you're like, oh, you're kind of cool in real life, you know, and you're starting something new and blokes should open themselves up to that.
So guys, I mean, we've covered a lot of personal experiences and thoughts on lots of these issues, but it would be great to know, in the last year, what has been like a standout experience for you in your relationships with maybe a partner, a friend? I mean, if you feel like it, would you be up for opening up? So I'll start with Lex and go back.
Targeted. Right, let me sit up.
You're in that direct dial line.
Yeah, I went through a huge change. So I'm recently single again after being married. So I
Congratulations.
went through. Well, in a way, yeah, I'm kind of going to get round to that because everyone sees it as being, you know, bam, huge impact in life and it being, you know, how are you doing with that and things. And don't get me wrong, it's not a nice thing to have to go through. It's a long, drawn-out process. There's a lot of emotions that go through it from both sides. But I know a lot of people who've gone through the struggles of, I know we focus a lot on COVID, but obviously it's relevant to the time, but it has caused a lot of breakups, and then obviously people are going to break up regardless of COVID existing or not as well, so it's an important thing to go. And a lot of people, I get a lot of messages again saying, how do you get over it? I think a lot of people are devastated by breakups because they have put themselves so much into the other person, they've lost themselves. I think that happens a lot, and so now they feel like they're empty, that this other person's not here. I literally had a message the other day from someone saying, how do I move forward from this? I'm not eating, I'm not sleeping, I'm not training. Like they're literally devoid of who they are because of it. And I think one of the biggest things to realize is, yeah, you've gone through a breakup, and yes, it's not good, but listen, you went through a journey with somebody, and I'm sure there's plenty of positive moments you have with that person, and they're all life experiences, and they're great, and you'll carry them with you. But there's also many lessons to learn from it. Like, not everything can last forever, and most things won't. So learn from the mistakes you made in that and carry them forward as being so instead of focusing on what went wrong, focus on the fixes. What can I make better? What can I take from it? And that really helped me. And one of the biggest things I found was taking away the stress. Once that relationship was over and finalized, the relief of the stress of going through that allowed me to put so much more energy back into myself. Because, okay, you're not with another person anymore, and obviously I'm assuming when you go through a breakup, it becomes tumultuous. It becomes a little bit hard work towards the end. So all that energy that was put into that negativity is now free for you to use and put into you, to find out who you are, what you want to do, and focus on new goals. And honestly, when you start to find little things that you start to connect with and start to build and meet new people, it's so elevating, and you can realize, and then you get little compliments from people who start to notice. You know, it's like you're seeming, I got this a lot, you're Lex again. And I was like, I didn't realize I wasn't. I genuinely didn't realize it, but other people around you did, and maybe it would have been better if we'd have reached out at those times, because maybe you wouldn't have been so pulled away from yourself. But I think one of the big things to realize is, yes, listen, you've gone through something, but now is an opportunity for you to try new avenues, find yourself, meet new people. There's a whole world opened up to you. You're not nothing because this other person isn't there anymore. You're bigger than a single moment. And that's
Beautifully
the
said,
biggest
my
thing.
friend.
Love that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Very
That's
good.
great. Colin.
I think I always prided myself on the quality of relationship with my family, my parents and my brother. However, with the pandemic and the fear that you might lose, particularly older people around you, and I want to say a massive thank you to Chris for really forcing this perspective on me, because Chris talks really openly about the loss of his mother, and it meant a lot to me to think about, if this is a shorter time period that you get to spend with your parents, it could only be 50, 60 times that you still see them over your lifetime, depending how often you have access to them. And it may be less than that even for people who maybe live far from their parents. Yeah, it's horrible. I think it's...
When you start putting numbers on the
yeah,
visits left.
Jordan Peterson actually asked people to calculate that in terms of if you see them at Christmas and Easter or whatever, calculate what that actually means if that's your grandparents or your parents. So that gave me a big perspective, because Chris and I spoke back at the start of the pandemic on my platform, and Chris said to focus on 3 things, and one of those things was death, and it was of people around you. So using this period to ensure that I am present and in the moment and focused when I do spend time with the people that I care about. Now I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough to live with my brother, and that's fantastic. But when you do spend time with mum and dad, making sure that you're fully in that moment, you aren't wanting to check what's happening in the WhatsApp group chat, you aren't checking whatever else is going on. If you do go walk with your parents or whatever, you're not worried about, oh, I need to rush off to get to this, or I need to go and train, whatever it is. Making sure that you have that focus on the depth and the quality of your relationship when you have the time and the opportunity to do it. And I'm applying that in a family setting, but you could apply that in a partnership setting, you could apply that in a friendship setting, because we don't know how fleeting life is, and perhaps it's still brought into sharp focus that people around you may not be here forever, and you need to spend quality time with them when they are available to you.
Preach.
I love that. I'm glad I'm the host.
really
I don't have to follow all these.
Yeah.
Mike, how about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think so many good things have been said already. For me, probably the biggest change was, I think in my life, I always optimized for like efficiency and achievement and stuff like that. And if there was a dial, to borrow something you said before, I was always dial to the max on getting things done on time, and probably dial low relationships and how people are doing and stuff like that. Because I'm like, pain is temporary, glory is forever type of, to borrow an old quote. But over COVID and over the last year, definitely started to optimize for relationships more. So much so that I think I know all my teams really well now. Like, we started doing this weekly thing where we would sit on Zoom, and initially I was like, this is a waste of time. Why am I sitting for an hour hearing about people's like lunch times? But then I realized, oh my gosh, like I should enjoy the people I'm trying to change the world with. I mean, how weird was it that before I was just like, we're gonna change the world, without actually going, who are you guys who want to change it as well, right? So that was amazing. I moved cities to be closer to my family. Something, if you asked me would I ever do before, I'd be like, no, we just call them and we're fine.
You wonder why.
But now I'm moving and I'm like, my mom's like, oh, I want to do this on Saturday. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. In a way that before, I didn't see my mom for years. I would kind of see her once in a while, but I wouldn't spend like long time with her for years. And the same thing's true for like, when I first meet people, it's a bad thing I used to do. One of my most important kind of on my checklist would often be like, what do they do? Who are they in this kind of businessy, social entrepreneurial, changing the world type of place? Then I realized not all my friends actually need to be entrepreneurs or need to be interested in changing like the world in this grandiose way. Some people are just really kind, and it's nice to have really kind people around you type of thing. And so
just have that base, that people who aren't into all what you're doing, because they've got an outside perspective and they call you on your shit.
Literally. And if all they are is just kind and patient, that's enough for them to be a friend. They don't have to also be like the same as you. So that meant when I went online, I've now, I'm growing some really interesting new relationships that before lockdown, I definitely wouldn't have had. But now I am having them. And I'm seeing my life kind of change as a result of just opening myself up to different influences that before I wouldn't allow anywhere near me.
Beautiful. Marco.
Oh, God. Okay, so I met a girl just after the first lockdown. So effectively, we had a dystopian relationship. Anyway, so long story short, so in April this year, we split up. And I absolutely was devastated. Like you said, I was poured everything because I thought this was the one. And it was so painful emotionally that I'm going to have to say this, but I don't mind saying it. I had to take antidepressants. And the last time I took that, I was going through a divorce 12 years ago. Because it was so painful emotionally, because every time I went for a walk, a run, the gym, she was in my head, man, like all the time. And I'm thinking, why? I want her back and all that kind of stuff, I cried, and I need to do something. So I also joined a mental health group on Clubhouse, a few groups, which really helped me, by the way. But eventually, the pain, the only pain I didn't feel was when I was asleep. So I wouldn't get out of bed for like till 2 o'clock. I just couldn't do it. So I started taking antidepressants, went to the doctors, and thank God I've stopped taking them a week ago. Yeah, and I feel like so much better.
Well, I just want to say well done to Marco for opening up about taking antidepressants, and I think we need to really destigmatise this, because I full well know some people that won't ever tell people that, and that sucks because it's really important. So big up to you, Marco, for opening up about that. In terms of relationship changes for me over the last year and a bit, Cole obviously touched upon it. One of the things that I'm a massive believer in is gratitude, perspective, and being acutely aware of your own mortality. And I've applied this to my relationship, particularly with my father, during lockdown, because now everyone knows I've not got mum anymore. And pre-COVID, I was kind of vibing with, I'll see dad now and then, and he's busy and I'm busy, and that's okay. And then when that external force said to me, you can't see your old man now, I was like, oof, I'm really not comfortable with that. And so we for the first time ever, he's a football bloke. We go to the Norwich games together, community, another aspect we haven't spoken about yet, but we should do. I went for a walk with him. 2 blokes going for a walk, like, I don't think that's that normal. Your father and your son, it's normally a pub, it's normally a thing. You almost distract yourself from what you really need to talk about. And that walk for 45 minutes it gives me a lump in my throat now, because it was a game changer for me, because it wasn't actually about my mental health, it was about my dad's mental health. My dad opened up to me about things that he'd never shared before, about my mum, about how he feels, and that was super important to me. So that was one thing. And I think, of course, applying that logic, gratitude, perspective in your own mortality, I think during lockdown, we all now have this inbuilt perspective that it can always be worse. You can be locked up indoors, which seriously sucks. And then lastly, gratitude is huge for me in relationships. So being grateful and content with what you've got, very important. Having a gratitude journal. One of the things I'm grateful for, to flip it to the conversation that has been happening, is I actually got married during the global pandemic.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And so when I was, a Slater suit, of course, come on. It was lovely.
I've seen the pictures.
I think that's the reason why Becky said yes to me in the
pictures are
first
amazing,
place.
by the way.
To be fair, I did wear a Slater's bit of casual wear up the mountain as well, which is a long story. Anyway, so I proposed at the top of Ben Nevis
when you were getting married.
So I realised, let's use this case study of being stuck indoors. I realised I want to hang around with this girl forever. I'm so grateful for this girl. So I was like, you know what? Time's of the essence. We managed to get away in that 3-week break where it was glorious. Ben Nevis popped the question, got married. And so my dad, getting closer to him, and also my now wife, that was a big moment. That's really important.
Congratulations, mate. That's fantastic.
Thanks, dudes.
Love it.
Guys, thank you so much for opening up. They were all absolutely fantastic and amazing. And I've got a bit of a lump in my throat as well.
What about you, Johnny? Have you got
I'm
any
the host,
stories
so I
over
get
lockdown?
to hang out. I get to pull back from this bit. My responsibility ends at keeping you guys in line. So I think on that note, that brings us to a close of Inside Men's Mind. This is written down, but I genuinely want to say, massive thank you to all of you guys for being part of this. I know this isn't an easy thing. It's not a comfortable thing. It's not a normal thing. But just getting together, opening up, sharing with strangers is, I'm so glad you guys came along for this. So the key learnings for myself and hopefully for the audience, I'd say, are being conscious of how my day-to-day decisions can give longer-term mental impact, health, nutrition, all those sides. Being aware of my friends and signs they may be struggling, what you touched on earlier, instead of just being like, how are you? It's no. Push beyond busy is probably a good marketing line there. Being brave is saying you're okay or admitting a problem, not saying I'm fine or believing your friend is always all right. But if something in the sit down has caught your attention and you feel like you need to further conversation or seek advice, we please do encourage you to do the following. Matthew.
Yeah, please, if you need any support, just contact Samaritans. It's services available around the clock. It's free. Call 116 123, or if you go online, samaritans.org, and you can find your local branch. We've got 200 branches across the UK. You can pop in to your branch for actually, if you want face-to-face emotional support. That's spiked recently because a lot of people don't have those kind of face-to-face networks. So if you need any help at all, just contact Samaritans.
Great. So we're going to leave all that information on the screen anyway when this is the video. So if you'd like to see more informative stuff like this, I mean, I've really enjoyed this. Please let us know in the comments below or what areas you'd like us to delve into further. I've been Johnny, and this was Inside Men's Minds.
Thank you, Johnny.
Guys, I don't use the term beautiful much, but that was beautiful. That was